Hello and welcome to the RanDum podcast. I'm Tyson,
I'm Landry.
and I brought Landry here today because he knows a lot about planes and military stuff, and I don't. So, Landry, please start us off. What do you know?
I know a lot about like fighter jets and all the different things in military aviation on like how they're labeled. So like the FA-18, let's say, is a fighter-based jet because the F stands for fighter, and then it also has an attack role, which is the A, because it's called the FA-18. So it's able to do ground stuff too. It's not all just air.
FA, they're like kind of submodels with this or like different variations.
Yeah, I don't know much about those, but I know like the FA-18E is a different variant than the FA-18F. One of them's a two-seater, one of them's a single seat. And then also in the FA-18 category, there's the Legacy Hornet and the Super Hornet. The Legacy Hornet came before the Super Hornet, and the Super Hornet is more advanced. And you can tell the difference because the intakes are slightly different. On the FA-18 Legacy Hornet, it has rounded intakes. On the Super Hornet, it has rectangular, like square intakes, and it's a lot larger aircraft.
So, what does the FA-18 do better than other planes, other jets?
It's a Navy-based plane, so it's really good for landing on aircraft carriers. So if you take the F, it's a fighter aircraft. It's able to do air to ground. They made it just for a fighter, but it switched into a multi-role aircraft. So the FA-18 is able to do sea operations better than the F-16 because it's able to withstand the salt and all the water getting on the aircraft. The landing gear is way better. So when it's coming down on the glide slope to touch down on the carrier, it's coming in really fast, and when it hits down, it hits really hard. So then you have to be sure that it hits right.
So, what other kind of aircraft would you find what kind of aircraft would you find on an aircraft carrier?
There's all sorts of kinds. So like the F-16, it can land on the aircraft carrier because it has a tail hook, but it's only for emergencies. And you usually wouldn't do that because it's really risky because Air Force pilots are trained for soft landings. But you can find an older aircraft would be the F-4. They don't use that anymore on aircraft carriers. Other countries might. I'm not entirely sure on that. I know Japan uses them still. But you can find FA-8 or EF-8 and Growlers. It's a different variant of the Hornet. It's meant for electronic warfare. So it'll attack radars. So then you can take out the radars with HARM missiles, the HARM missiles are attracted to the radar. I don't know how much I can go into that. That's like all I know. And then you can find E-2 Hawkeyes. Those are aircraft carrier based, and they've got two props, and the wings can fold up. So then they're parallel to the aircraft or the airframe of the aircraft. They're for radars, or it's their early warning systems, so they're radars up in the sky, and those can land on aircraft carriers as well. Then there's the A6 Intruder. It's not used anymore. It got replaced by the FA-18 as the attack, and they do have a EA, or it's just the E6 Growl, or I don't remember. I think it's the Growler or something, but that's electronic warfare as well. But the GF-18 took that spot, or the EF-18, because it's more modern. And then there's also the Marines. They have different aircraft. So the F-35B is a VTOL version, or VTOL and STOL, which VTOL is vertical takeoff and landing, and STOL is short takeoff and landing. Okay, so then that aircraft is for just Marines. I guess there is an F-35C, which is aircraft carrier based. I forgot about that one, but it's a stealth platform, and it's got an amazing helmet, which you're able to see through the aircraft and all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I can go into detail on that, but I know the helmet's like worth $500,000, which is insane.
Yeah. So you said there were other countries using these planes. Are there just companies that make the planes and then all around the world the militaries are buying them and using them? Or is it like only certain countries buy planes from companies, or like how does that work?
So there's companies. So there's Sikorsky. They make helicopters, I believe, just helicopters. And then there's Lockheed Martin, which includes Sikorsky. So Lockheed Martin basically owns Sikorsky in a way, but they work together. And when you have Lockheed Martin and Sikorsky together, they usually make like really good helicopters. And then you've got Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works, they make super secret stuff. So, like the SR-71 was one, I believe. Yeah, it was. And then in Top Gun Maverick, I'm not entirely sure if this is a real aircraft, but the SR-72 Dark Star, that was sponsored by Skunk Works and Lockheed Martin.
If I remember correctly, I think they were working on it, but I don't think it had technically come out by the time they made the movie, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
they're working on it,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's actually there. They're saying that it is, but I'm not entirely sure.
We have F-18s, F-16s, you said F-4. Is that just like by year or like how long does it take to make a plane and do you know like their numbering system?
So I'm not entirely sure on their numbering system, but the classification at the beginning, so the F, it stands for fighter, like I said earlier.
Right.
But then there's other variants. So there's like C, which is transport, T is trainer. So like those kind of seem like backwards, but trainer, like T, makes sense.
Right, yeah.
But the number, I'm not entirely sure what it does, but what I know is that it's basically counting up. So there's the F1, which is a Mirage, which I'm not entirely sure why they did that. But then there's like the F4, and then there's an F5, and then F14 and F15. So like those came after each other. So then there's also the F16 and YF17. The F16 and YF17, they actually competed to get the spot that the F16 has now. The YF17 actually got moved to the FA18 because the Navy saw it as a really capable fighter, and they decided to they changed it to F8 because it wasn't the same, because it was meant for Navy specifically.
So you said they compete. So they design the plane and they manufacture it, and then I'm guessing they just have a professional pilot in both planes doing like a course or something.
Yeah, so they test performance, speed, and maneuverability. So one that I really like is the YF-23 versus the YF-22, because those are one of my favorite aircraft, or those two are really cool. So the YF-23 got put out or they didn't produce that one because the F-22 proved to be more dominant, because the F-22 can go cruising speeds at over Mach without using afterburners, and that is really amazing. And then it has thrust vectoring, which is really cool because it can basically fly backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And then it can do flat spins and all that and come out of it. But the YF-23 was more of a long range capable fighter, and it was more BVR, which is BVR stands for beyond visual range, and that's getting more into like modern warfare or dogfighting, because when you're flying, you usually don't want to just sit there and wait until someone comes up and you go into the merge, which that means you're in a dogfight. So usually you do a BVR, beyond visual range, to try and take them out if they're a threat.
Oh, quick question. What is Mach again? Is that speed of sound?
Yeah, Mach is the speed of sound. So there's different classifications. So there's supersonic, which is beyond Mach 1 and above. And then there's hypersonic, which is Mach 5 and above. Because at Mach 1, you start changing, you go beyond the speed of sound, so your sound travels really weirdly, because there's this shape that it makes on the aircraft with the aerodynamics, and that was really hard for them to get past in the past. So like with prop planes, the propeller can only spin at Mach 1, so you can't go faster than Mach. And they've never done that before. But the reason why there's supersonic and hypersonic is hypersonic, once you reach Mach 5, way the aircraft moves and stuff is completely changed.
Interesting. And can't you like see there's like a bubble or something or like a cone around the plane?
Oh, yeah, when you're going Mach speed, it depends on the altitude and moisture in the air. And then also altitude, I forgot to mention this. Altitude plays a big part. So you can be going Mach speed at like 1,000 feet. Let's say 3,000 feet, because that's usually what they fly at. And at, let's say, 10,000 or 20,000 feet, you could be flying way faster than that. So if you're flying Mach speed at the ground level, that's going to be like, I think it's 600 some knots. But then if you go up to like 10,000 feet, the speed's going to change.
Right, because there's like less air, I guess, probably.
It's not that. The less air actually helps, because when you go up to a higher altitude, it's less drag.
Right.
But the distance from the Earth, so when you're up higher, the rotation of the Earth also plays in part with that.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so knots is nautical miles per hour. So it's your ground speed from the air. And then if you say miles per hour when you're flying, that's not going to be very accurate for the ground. So that's why they use knots in aviation. So like the controller tower uses knots so then they understand like how fast they're going in the air relative to the ground.
Fun question. In Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, his dad, they have a plane flying at them and it's about to shoot them because they're on the beach. So his dad runs up to the birds there, flaps his umbrella, scares the birds, and then the birds fly into the plane. And I forgot what it's called, bird strike.
Yeah, bird strike.
Does that affect these high-tech, super expensive planes nowadays?
Yeah, so it depending on the aircraft, if it's a single engine, so like the F-16, it has one engine. If a bird goes into that intake, you can't really restart it unless you're able to, which would be really hard. But the bird would go into the intake and it would just start on fire, and you'd have to put the fire out, which usually shuts down your engine. But I'm not entirely sure on how that works on the F-16. But if you have like dual engines, so two engines, if one goes out, I think it's usually the left engine that powers all the aircraft. So if that engine goes out, you might have a problem. So say your right engine went out, you can still fly. Okay. So on the FA-18, since the engines are close together, you're able to fly with just one.
Wouldn't that be kind of weird though? Because they're probably side by side, and then one.
It would make you roll a little bit, but you use rudder to help correct that.
Okay, I'm guessing you want to be a pilot when you grow up.
Yeah.
What does that take to become a pilot?
It takes a lot of good grades, hard work, and like if you go on a roller coaster, if you pass out at 4 Gs, then your chances of making it aren't the best probably, because for the average human body, 4 Gs is the max you can take. Which I wasn't a big fan of roller coasters, but I really want to go on one again, or want to go on one because I always chickened out on those.
Yeah.
But some aircraft like the F-22 can go up to 9 Gs, which is way past what the FA-18 can. It's like in Top Gun Maverick when they're pulling out of that canyon, going to 9 Gs or 10 Gs or whatever, that stresses the aircraft's airframe. So certain aircraft are only able to withstand certain G limits. So 7.5 on the FA-18 is the max. But it takes a lot of hard work to get into there. You have to know a lot about math and how aircraft work, weather, all that stuff.
Is there like a school you have to go to or basic training?
My dad was helping me with it and on figuring out how to do it. So he told me that I should go to college because my dad knows someone that flew Apaches for the U.S. Army, and they work at Omaha, or at the Omaha University, and there's a flight program there, and it's like really good, and my dad's wanting me to get in there sometime and see what it's all about. But you want to go to school, get pilot stuff, and then what you want to do is go to school, get all your degree, get at least one degree, I think, or it might be a major, I don't know, but you want to do that. And then during that time when you're in college, there's this program called ROTC, Recruitment Officer Training Corps, I think is what it is. But there's an Air Force one. So it'll help you become an officer in the military, which is what I'm planning on doing. And then what I do after that is probably go to the National Guard, because my chances of getting the aircraft I want are probably a little bit higher. And then if I want to, I can deploy full-time if I wanted to.
Do you know the pay for it with what you said?
For flying, to get into it.
Well, first of all, how much do you get paid for what you said, your job?
For flying full-time, probably 50,000 to 100,000, I believe, a year. But then also, like, going into commercial aviation, if you do, like, flights just in the U.S., like, from here to, let's say, like, Florida, you might get paid, like, 50,000. But then if you do flights from like Florida across the ocean, then it'll probably be like 100,000 to 150,000. So it's really good pay.
Okay. And then, do you know if it costs much to get into the school? Or could you get like a scholarship or something?
You can get scholarships. I'm not entirely sure. It's probably really expensive to get into it.
Did you say the Marines had airplanes too, or aircraft?
Yeah, so they have a smaller deck. So, like, think of an aircraft carrier, and then think of the destroyer ships next to them. They're about like that size, except they've got a flight deck, so it's flat on there. So there's multiple different aircraft. So there's the F-35B and the AV-8B Harrier, which is actually a British aircraft that the U.S. bought.
So, quick question, British aircraft, is that a British company that makes it, or what does that mean?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a British company.
Okay.
But we have some. We don't use them anymore. I don't believe.
Okay.
But they're VTOL and STOL aircraft. And then you've got like Hueys and stuff on that aircraft. Black Seahawks. It's basically a modified Black Hawk for the carriers.
So, yeah, you said the Marines have aircraft, Navy, Air Force. Is that it? Probably.
The Army has some. It's like Hueys and Black Hawks and stuff. They have V-22s, which is vertical. It's a vertical takeoff aircraft. It's a helicopter plane, which is really bizarre. It's cool.
Helicopter plane.
So it has giant props on it, and it can take off like a helicopter and fly around like a helicopter, but it transitions those blades into forward-facing props, so it's like a prop plane going forward.
Well, what the heck?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's bizarre but cool.
I'm guessing you land it, transition it, and then fly it again.
So what you do, you can't land it in plane mode. So you land it in helicopter mode, because the blades are so big that they'll touch the ground if you land in plane mode.
Oh, okay.
So it transitions mid-air. So it's like the F-35 in the AV-8B, where the engine transitions down, so then you're able to get thrust underneath of it. So then it picks up the aircraft, and then it transitions slowly after you build up speed. So the V-22, it'll slowly rotate its blades down, and then it'll start going faster and faster.
That is very interesting. What do you know, like, what's the weirdest to you aircraft besides that one, I guess?
And that's hard. I'm not entirely sure.
Is that probably the weirdest one, I guess?
Well, I mean, there's another weird one. I don't know what it's called, but it's some German plane or British plane. I don't know. But it's got a really weird engine. Like the back side of it looks weird. The intakes look fine, but the back is just bizarre.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the Dark Star, I learned it had an interesting engine. Like, and I forgot what it was called, but like I think normal planes have like a propeller or something inside with the intake.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what they are. They help with combustion.
Yeah, but like with the Dark Star, instead of having moving parts, it's just flat out using the air going straight in or something to that effect. And then they're able to make it, instead of having to move everything, if it's just the air that's moving, makes it go a lot faster. So in Top Gun Maverick, when he's flying the plane, you see him like push a button or something, and then like it shows the intakes and it.
Oh, the scramjet, yeah.
Scramjet, yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if you're going fast enough, the air moving through does the work that I think it's called the propellers inside, something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure on that.
There's like a mechanical moving part that they turn off, switch to scramjet, and then they're able to go like 10 Mach.
Yeah. And then also aircraft like old MiGs, which is a Russian or German company. I don't entirely remember. I think it's German, but it's weird. It's an old style, but in the nose, there's this cone that moves. So when you're getting faster and faster, it starts moving forward to regulate the airspeed running through, so then you don't get an engine stall.
Yeah, those planes are interesting. All right, last of all, to wrap it up, Landry, what is your favorite jet and why?
I have so many. So what I want to fly is the F-22, because it's got thrust vectoring and you can do all crazy stuff with that, and it's supposedly the best dogfighter out there. And it's such a big aircraft and it's stealth. Also like to fly the F-35B, the VTOL version, but I don't want to be in the Marines. So it would have to be the A for me, which is the Air Force variant. But I'd want to fly that one for all like the technology and stuff that goes into that helmet.
Yeah.
And they're also working on a project for that where you can, I think it's called Loyal Wingman, but it's an aircraft that flies next to you that's remotely controlled from your aircraft. The F-22 is able to do that as well, I believe. But then the F-16, that'd be another one that would be cool to fly because it's multi-role compared to the F-22, which is, I believe, mainly just air-to-air. And then the F-35 is also able to do some ground stuff. It's supposedly going to replace the A-10, but they keep postponing the A-10's retirement because the Army troops on the ground really like it because of its 30mm Gatling gun, which is super powerful. It has explosive rounds, I believe, and it can carry so much and it's able to loiter above the ground a lot. Then I have this other aircraft. It's not American. It's actually Russian. It's called the Su-57 Felon, and the sound the engine makes is awesome. It's like this cool, like, howling whine kind of sound. And then it's also got thrust vectoring, 3D thrust vectoring, which is even more different because in Top Gun Maverick, there's this scene where Tom Cruise is in the F-14 Tomcat going back into his old jet, and he's in the dogfight, and then he gets behind one of the felons. He launches a missile, and the felon pulls up, and then does that weird twist
Oh,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's actually possible. It's weird to think about, but it's possible. Another reason why that would be a cool aircraft to fly is because of how slow it can fly. Because its entire body shape is designed for slow flying, and it's just a giant, I don't know, it's so flat, like there's so much surface area. So when you pull up really hard and go do a Cobra maneuver and then do that twist, it slows you down really fast. Now that twist in that movie was just to dodge the missile, because that was an infrared missile, so it'll go for the engines. I don't know why he didn't flare, because flares would honestly be better.
He was showing off.
Yeah, just showing off. Probably just to make the movie a little more intense.
Yeah.
But then it's got some really cool, on the Su-57, cool infrared, or spots for the infrared missiles, because it has internal bays, like the F-22 and F-35. And it's underneath the wing, and then it also has some underneath, like, the belly of the aircraft. It's a really interesting aircraft. But it's only made for stealth in the front, which is absolutely weird, but it's cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah. And quick question, you said like they're postponing the A-10 retirement. Do they have to retire planes, or can they just make a good plane and just keep producing it for a long, super long time?
They could keep replacing it with the same thing, but just like the cost of it is really expensive. And since the A-10 is so old, they want to find something new, but F-35 I don't feel like should be doing it because it's a supersonic fighter and it's not really, I guess, to me, it doesn't seem like it should be meant for air to ground. And the A-10 has a lot of, like, it can sit in the air for a really, really long time because it's two large engines in the back, don't take up much fuel, and it's got a lot of fuel storage in the wings. And it's able to hold a ton of bombs on it, so if some troops need some bomb work close to them, it has precision strike capabilities.
So I suppose they might as well just make a new one because they're probably able to optimize, what's a better word? Optimize, make other things better. I guess, like probably fuel economy. Could they make that better in newer planes?
Well, like the F-35, it's such a small aircraft that you'd have to put bags on it. Bags are fuel tanks that sit under the wings, which I'm not entirely sure that the F-35 can do that. I know it can put some bombs and missiles on the outside, but I don't think they can put bags on them.
Okay.
So then it makes the time go down really fast.
But you said it's really expensive to like keep reproducing the A-10 instead of just making a new one. Is it less expensive to do that?
So to do maintenance on it, it costs money, but to make an entirely new A-10, that costs a lot because it uses titanium, quite a bit of it, because in the cockpit, in the nose of the aircraft, around the cockpit, they call it a titanium bathtub because it's like really tough armor to get through. So then the pilot can't be killed very good. And then also the 30 millimeter Gatling gun. They built the aircraft around that gun. Yeah. So like to keep up that gun is very important, and they have to worry about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Landry, it was good talking with you. I'm glad you were able to come on the podcast and just talk about planes for a solid half hour, I guess. It was really fun. Yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. Hope to see you again sometime.
Yeah.